For many Nigerians and those interested in her politics, they think that at this moment, the country should be talking about what will happen after the inauguration of the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But a whole lot more still believe that that day may not come due to what they perceive to be the irregularities that surrounded the 2023 elections. But I think it's better that we continue to look forward to what the law says and what the administration that is in view will give the Nigerian people. And of course, that will be our focus on today's edition of Politics Alive. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I am Olubenga George. When I return from this break, my guest joins me to look into some of the issues from the 2023 elections and the way forward, that is the prospect of Asiwaju's presidency from 2023 up until maybe, who knows when that term will last. It's a pleasure to be on your screen. I'll see you in a minute. Joining me to have conversation around the 2023 elections and the way forward for the APC new administration beginning from May 29th, I have been joined by a member of the Presidential Campaign Committee, Media and Publicity Department, right in the studios. Her name is someone you already know, Kem Ashikun, right here in the studios, but you can call her Kem. I think you're more comfortable with that. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Same here, Benga. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me just quickly say that day will come. The inauguration will come, it will go, and Asiwaju will be declared the president of Nigeria come May 29, 2023. So there should be no fear. Let me just take that out of the way.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think for many who have that doubt, that answers the question. But there are quite a lot of activities, that has thrown up the suspicions and this doubt about the reality of May 29th. And a lot of people even do say that if you follow the trajectory of 1993 elections of late Chief MQ Abiola, and you juxtapose it with the trajectory of the 2023 elections and the president-elect Asiwaju, that there seems to be a lot of similarities. You talk about the vice presidential candidate, you talk about a lot of figures, actually put them at the situations at par. And the only differentiating factor right now may be that May 29th, the day of inauguration.
Let me first say that for those who have, said that there are a lot of similarities. Indeed, there are. I remember with a group of friends of mine when we were discussing back in 2019, I did say to them then that 2023 is 1993 reborn. So for those of us who just look beyond what's, is on paper, we know that it is a reoccurrence. However, there is a difference. And the difference lies in the fact that at that time, it was a military rule. Right now, we have a democracy, and it's just natural for a democracy to evolve and move from one administration to another. That difference, as seemingly tiny as it is very, very important, and that difference will count on the 29th of May, 2023, when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is sworn in as the president of Nigeria by the grace of God. I add by the grace of God, not because I have a single doubt in my head, but because every single breath we take is by the grace of God. But I can tell you for real, that day will hold and he will be sworn in, and the abortion that happened to our democracy or happened to our nation back in 1993 will be corrected. We will birth this child, and this child, this new Nigeria that we're birthing, and this renewed hope we're coming with, it will come with all the greatness that Nigeria possesses, so that in the end, the real giant of Africa will stand strong, stand tall, and be everything to Nigerians that Nigerians hope it to be. And I say that, everything to Nigerians that Nigerians hope it to be, because you cannot plant corn and expect rice. If you hope that Nigeria will become great, if you hope that Nigeria will give you the benefits of a great country, you will get it. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. For those of us who believe in Nigeria, for those of us who give everything to make this nation great, we know that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the Midas touch. We know that he has all that it takes to bring to bear a nation we can be proud of. And that's why we not only support him, we will give anything and everything to ensure that that government is successful.
I'm sure, like me, a lot of Nigerians are looking forward earnestly to that. All right, but before we go on, let's take a back walk to the electoral process that led to the 2023 elections. It was keenly contested from the time of primaries in June 2022.
Absolutely.
And it was a fierce battle, especially within your party, the APC. You talk about all of the people who thought they would emerge and couldn't, and Asiwaju emerged. And eventually, a lot of pundits were actually looking at the ability of Asiwaju to be able to mend these fences together. There were a lot of, issues within the All Progressives Congress. Nevertheless, Asiwaju emerged the candidate of the party. Nevertheless, Asiwaju is the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So my concern is a lot of people, especially in the opposition, have said that the process, that gave birth to his emergence is flawed, is faulty, and have continued to challenge it up until now.
Okay, can I take it?
What is your assessment of the electoral process that produced Asiwaju?
Let me take it one step at a time. At that time, everyone thought that APC will implode. But because we are progressives, we did not implode. And it's important to also note that all Asiwaju asked for during the primaries, I was there on the grounds of the primaries, I spent the night there, and all he asked for was for a democratic process to be allowed full expression. And that much was what happened on that night. And when he emerged with 1,271 votes, a far cry from the from the first runner-up, who was the former Honorable Minister of Transportation at that time, Honorable Rotimi Amechi. This has been the fairest election. This has been the most transparent election since 1999. Unfortunately, some of those who are on social media today, going on and on and on, right, were not even born at that time. I was GS1, GS2, in 1993, and I saw the events play out. I saw the massive love. I saw everything, right? And I'm here in 2023, so that means that between 1993 and 1999, I have experienced as an adult, maybe not as an adult in 1990, but since I have experienced as an adult, the elections back to back. And I know what elections were. In 1999, a lot of people were not really into the democratic thing. They didn't know what to do or how to do or how to play it. But I can tell you that in 2003, the elections that held at that time, it was a do or die affair. It was a question of you shift or we shift you. You move or we move you. We will take you out. And people were killed, ballot boxes were snatched, and there was nothing these were elections that it was blood, 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 and blood. Let's look at these elections. How many polling units do you have in fractions per state? I'm talking about the 2003 election, 2007 election, that even the president at that time said this is a do or die affair. And if a president will say this is a do or die affair, that tells you that all that needed to be deployed was deployed during those elections. In contrast to a President Muhammadu Buhari, who has become a Democrat par excellence from his military days, right, and said, go out there and vote for the candidate of your choice. Vote for the candidate of your choice. When he had to campaign for his party, he campaigned. But you could tell that being the president of the country, he was almost fully out. Detached. Thank you for that word. Detached from whatever the outcome of the election will be. So, when people say the electoral process was flawed, I can understand the Gen Zs that say all of that. But when people... Sorry, let me just land on that point. When people who are old enough to have experienced 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011 and co. say this election was flawed, they are being clever by half.
Okay, when you say they're being clever by half, I'm beginning to wonder, because you look at the category of people who actually are in this side. For example, you look at the direct opposition and People's Democratic Party. You've seen Alhaji Atiku Abubakar point out several points, where both the Independent National Electoral Commission, kicked against the law.
How do you mean? Can I get specifics?
He pointed out several, the publication is everywhere. He pointed out irregularities, steps that the Electoral Commission should have taken, but did not take. But chief of them all, which even other oppositions like the Labour Party also agreed to, is the fact that election results were supposed to be transmitted via the IREV to INEC portal, so that everyone could have access to election results in real time. And those were the some of the promises that were made, during the electoral process.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Let me start with Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. He was vice president in 2003 and was vice president in 2007. If there's anybody who knows what our elections used to be, in contrast to what it was now or what it is now, he should be the number one person to be able to tell us that, indeed, this election has improved. But because he's in the picture, it will be difficult to remove himself from the picture. But he knows what we're talking about. Let's look at the issue of the IREV. You see, and then I will come to the reason why it was almost impossible for any other party to have beaten my party, the All Progressives Congress, right? Let's look at the issue of the IREV. I personally monitor elections. I monitored Osun elections. I monitor Ekiti elections via the IREV. Because for me, my party is a progressive party, and it makes me happy and grateful that for every time my party wins, I know that there's a progressive governor in place or progressive principal in place, to address all of that. So I monitored many of these. I monitored these elections via the IREV. And I can tell you one thing. If we take a look at what the Commissioner for Communications said about the election, the attacks on our internet space, that's number one. Number two, I was monitoring via IREV, and I noticed at some point the network kept dropping. It's also important to note that if the cyberspace was being attacked and the network was dragging, right? Nothing stopped any of the polling agents from taking pictures of their results. That's why you're supposed to have polling agents at your polling unit, right? All APC had polling agents in all our polling units. PDP had polling agents in all their polling units. The normal thing for human beings to do, that is those who, can use what God has given to them to think, is to say, come, all our polling agents come together. Collate your pictures. Why are you polling agents? Collect the pictures of the results and let us compare with what INEC eventually uploaded. If there is a disparity, then you have your case. And that's why you say all of this is dependent on the evidence. You understand? You cannot just start making spurious comments, saying all sorts of things when there is nothing to back it up. Today, virtually everybody has a phone. Virtually everybody has a phone that can take a camera. By the way, if you send your polling agents to the polling unit without a phone that they can use in taking pictures of the results, that's nobody's fault. But that's the least they could have done. So call your polling agents nationwide. Guys, we need to see the results of your polling units. That is what normal people do. But rather than go that route, these people who have been prepped up by all sorts of beliefs, including some false prophecies, feel that if that is not in place, then they should just go wild. And that's not acceptable in a democracy. It's not acceptable anywhere across the world. If you can show us the evidence that we didn't beat you in that polling unit, well, that's evidence one. Let's go. Do you follow what I'm trying to say? Now, let me now come to the part where I would say that the PDP and Labour Party couldn't have beaten my party in any way. And I'm going to do this mathematically and logically.
All right, interesting. Before we go into mathematics,
yes,
I'm really looking forward to, I'd like us to take a breather.
That's fine.
All right, viewers, let's take this quick breather. And when we return, the interesting conversation continues. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Politics Alive on our live television, and we are reviewing the 2023 electoral process and the prospect of Asiwaju presidency after now. And I've been in the studios with Kem Ashekun, of course, you know her as Kem, and we were talking about something interesting. She was about to take us into the mathematics of the 2023 elections, and I'm sure you also want to see that. All right, so let us get the mathematics.
The mathematics. You see, elections are always about multiplication and addition. Every subtraction or division in an election would result into a loss for whoever is getting divided or being subtracted. That's a good premise to start from. So let me now take us through the mathematics. In 2019, Obi was Atiku's vice president, right? And so whatever votes they got at that time that President Muhammadu Buhari beat them with, 3 million, came because at that time we still had a 2-horse race, right? Came to Obi and to Atiku, right? Obi got up and decided he has become a man of himself and should now be a presidential candidate for another party, right? And he moved from the PDP to the Labour Party. What did that do? It splits. It's divided the votes he would have gotten with Atiku or on his own side and divided it into 2 apiece, isn't it? Now, the G5, who were upset that Atiku decided that as a northern candidate, he would be the successor to another northern candidate who had done 8 years. And that brought about the G5 who said, no, we won't be a part of this. We Southerners are not stupid, right? And that brought about Governor Wike, Mr. Sheyi Makinde and co, and all of that. That further subtracts from whatever votes the PDP would have gotten. True or false? Good. Now, that means that whatever the PDP or the LP would have become has divided into 1/7. If we're looking at PDP, Labour Party, G5. So it has become 1/7, right? In 2019, Governor Dave Umahi was still in the PDP, right? So that gives us another 1/8. In 2019, Governor Ben Ayade was still in the PDP. That gives us another 1/9. No, it should be 1/10, so I've missed one somewhere. But that means that whatever would have accrued to each of the parties, whether the PDP or the Labour Party, was grossly divided. That's first, let's establish that. Because if you look at it, if you combine the votes that Obi got with the votes that Atiku got, if you add it together, you're getting a 12 million votes. And what that now means is that the way the Yorubas will say, they use their hand to do themselves. But the truth about it is that when God is for someone, even your enemies will fight, they will fight amongst themselves to give you victory. That's what happened in our case in the APC. When Governor Dave Umahi left the PDP, and Governor Ben Ayade left the PDP, both of them came to the APC. That's an addition, isn't it? Our parties, our states, our traditional APC states still remained the APC states. And so we became stronger. Elections are not emotions. And you see, facts are facts. And as they say, facts are sacred. And so you should never toy with facts. So if you have these facts before you, what does that tell you? It tells you that whatever strategy or calculations the Labour Party and the PDP were doing was flawed from the very beginning. Let's not now add the side of the fact that the PDP was campaigning on region. I'm a northerner, so you do north. Atiku actually made that statement at some point in a particular rally. That's a division. Do you get? That's a division in itself. Then you had the other party, George, take back your country. That's another division. And then if we now go to the mathematics of using religion to campaign, in the north, they're predominantly Muslims. And if you're predominantly Muslims, it means that you can have 4 wives if you can take care of them. In the south, where they are saying, church, take back your country, it is 1 man, 1 wife, right? So if you say you have 4 wives, in maybe out of 10 families, 7 of them have 4 wives. And each wife is competing to have the most children. This one decides she wants to have 5. The other one decides she wants to have 6. This one decides she wants to have 7. In Atiku's house alone, they have 32 votes. But that's just not. That's not the Christian and Muslim. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. So let's say you have 4 wives, 7 children each. That's 28 plus 4. That's 32. That's 32 votes in one house. In contrast to, church, take back your country in the south. So when you divide a people, there is no way you could have won that election. Because for many of those who were Muslims or who are Muslims, who although will not campaign, because I recall in the Asalatu I go to, the Imam kept saying, vote for any candidate of your choice. But the fact that you will say right there to my face, you are not campaigning to me based on what you can do or what you have done. I cannot look back at anything to point at. And what you're trying to tell me is to divide me in my house. My sister is a deaconess. In short, we have a mix. So when you try to divide people, you shouldn't expect a win, because you are now insulting whatever it is that they hold dear the most. And like I said, religion should never, ever be a tool to determine how you choose a leader.
I think at this point, I have to interject a little.
Please go ahead.
I'm quite excited that you're talking about, the role religion played in this election. And it's very clear for everyone to see that there was a strong divide, between religious lines, between ethnic lines, and some politicians were able to, really play on that. I'd like you to tell us, if, for example, we go to Lagos State, you saw how we are Lagosians. There are owners of Lagos. Lagos is the no man's land. All of that argument played out in the 2023 elections, especially for the governorship election. And it has left a kind of lacuna between the once united people, between the once boisterous Lagos, where everybody knows as the center of excellence. And now a lot of people are beginning to feel maybe we don't belong here. Or maybe, there's been a lot of back and forth, especially, and there have been really strong statements, even from stakeholders, even within your party, about some of these positions. I'd like you to know, because we should be talking about healing after elections. We should be talking about how we will unite the country. How do you think, the administration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to address this issue of religion and ethnicity that continues to divide the Nigerian people? Are we going by way of, are we going to regulate our religion? What exactly are your suggestions?
Let me start first by saying that the politicians who decided to use religion as a tool in politics are the most despicable humans you can ever think of. Because how a person chooses to relate with their God in the four corners of the wall of their houses or wherever, it's a personal thing. It is something between the heart and the Creator itself. It should never be brought into the political space, because politics in itself, they say it's dirty. I say the clean ones should go in and clean it up. And that's one of the reasons why I'm in politics. So for those who decided to use religion as a tool to further divide us as a nation, they're the most despicable human beings ever. That aside, I want to go to my principal, because it's always a pleasure to talk about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I can tell you, every time I talk about him, I am happy, because he's a man with great antecedents. And you can tell by the things he has done in the past. The Yoruba people will say that he who is going to clothe you, you first look at the cloth on his back. When Asiwaju was the governor of Lagos State, in his cabinet, he had people from Delta, Ogun, Ekiti. He had people from the Southeast extraction. He had Christians, he had Muslims, and possibly traditional worshippers, because you have a lot of traditional worshippers who won't come out, to show that that's who they are. But he had everybody from the different walks of life in his cabinet based on the competence they were bringing to the table. And that is who and what you call a unifier. That is the person you can look at and say, this person does not relate to people based on their creed, religion, tribe, or whatever it is else you want to talk about. That tells you this is a man who can help heal our land, who can help heal our nation. So, if you look at that antecedent, Asiwaju had every opportunity to campaign based on a tribe, but he did not. Because he could have said, okay, all my Yoruba people, the way Atiku said it. He did not do that. That tells you a man who doesn't think or look at people based on those levels. When people want to talk about religion, Asiwaju's wife of how many decades is a pastor ordained in the Redeemed Christian Church of God. And I want to believe that the Redeemed is still the largest church gathering in Nigeria, right? She's an ordained pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. And he lives with her peacefully. He has not asked her convert. Unlike the candidates, we are no longer, I don't want to campaign after elections. But we have candidates that contested with him in this religion that converted all his wives into his own faith. That's acceptable because even, in the religious faith, it is said that your God be my God. So when you understand that kind of thing. But actually, why didn't you use that to say, hey, woman? And that tells you that to him, that's not really a basis for relating with anyone.
All right, interesting, I must say. Now that the administration is here...
Sorry, I forgot one thing. You did mention about Lagos, the votes in Lagos and all of that. Okay, you see, Lagos has about 7 million voters. Lagos has about 7 million voters. During the presidential election, only about 1 million people came out to vote. And that way, for the first time since 1999, Jagaban lost Lagos. Not even Obasanjo was able to take Lagos, from Jagaban at that time. So, and that tells you, that gives even more credibility to the elections. Because if you look at Lagos, the bulk of the headquarters of all this take back your country, take back your country, take back your country, is the peace that has been created in Lagos for them to thrive. They forget that. So in Lagos, you have the opportunity to thrive. You can come in, get a warehouse, start your church, become a big, man of God or God of man, whichever way you decide to do it. So it was those kind of preachings that kind of turned that. But if you look at it, they beat us with less than 20,000 votes. And it was because the average Lagosian, at that time had felt that, Lagos, we always win Lagos. And that was why when it was time for governorship, we woke everybody up. The fact that you say that, I can take my time, the other, we'll win, is not enough for you to sit back at home. And so you had many more people come out. But when you say there are more divisions, there are recordings of people saying we'll chase their Oba out of town. We'll chase their this out of town, And as much as people say Lagos is no man's land, there are indigenous people of Lagos now. That's why we have the Oba of Lagos. And as much as many of us have decided to follow the Abrahamic religions, right, we still do not desecrate the stool of our traditional leaders. We do not desecrate it. We respect it. And so when someone starts to say you will chase our Oba out of town, you are awakening the Omoluabi in us. You are telling our Ori and our Eleda that it's time for you to wake up and fight for us, that the guest that we brought into the house now wants to sell the house on our heads. You understand? So besides praying, we will encourage everybody, come out, our house is about to be taken away from us. Not because if you understand the average Yoruba person, they say that he who relies on inheritance will suffer. I don't want, because our audience are, but for the Yoruba speaking audience, it says that Agbojilogun fire foshita. You understand? So we're not really an inheritance. This is the land my father left for me. This my we are not. But still doesn't mean that we are Omoalis. What is ours is still ours. You understand?
All right, so let's speak to how you think these issues can be resolved with the new government in power. Yes, you've spoken about Asiwaju appointing people from different parts, but I think the issue have grown way beyond that now. I mean, there are a lot of there are a lot of fracas. I mean, people, especially young people who have never been part of the electoral process, happen to be part of this war. They found themselves in it, not knowing how it started or why it is going on. But you already realize that they are in. Therefore, they may kind of need some sort of reconscientization. They may sort of need... so I'm asking, what do you think the incoming government can do? What do you think the government can do to ensure that the once patriotic Nigerians, the once Nigerian children, who were neither Yoruba nor Igbo nor Hausa, who were just Nigerians can go back to that, consciousness of I'm a Nigerian first?
Let me start by saying that I feel very sorry for these young people who have just grown up into a democracy. They don't understand how it started. I feel further sorry for them that the history that they could have held on to as a guiding light to understanding how to navigate their way within Nigeria, was also not in their curriculum, thanks to the PDP government, for them to know who or what is the villain and who is the hero. And so there's a confusion in there. I cannot hold brief for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but I know that he's a man that thinks outside the box. One of the things I am extremely passionate about is about the music content that we allow into our public space, because music is a very easy way to learn or to absorb without necessarily belaboring yourself. As a 5-year-old, my dad will play the cassettes of King Sunny Ade, Chief Ebenezer Obey and Co., on our way to school. And I cannot tell you how those songs have affected my life, even as an adult. And even though he died in 88, whenever I need to feel a connection to the sensitivity of being human or humane, I go back to those songs. I don't know if I want to sing one here, but I will do you one. It says, Edato Moshe Okunkun, Odakun Mama Doshupa Loro, Torie Ni Lario. You can find the song on YouTube. But what I'm trying to say is that for these young people, we must not play with the power of music and how it affects their lives. Secondly, orientation. There is or should be an agency that takes seriously how our young people, what they are fed with, how they are fed, especially their minds. I was recently reading about Hitler and how he was able to get rally Germany or the Germans to start to believe that they were invincible. It's all about the mind. You arrest the mind first, because I think it's the Bible that says that guard your heart with all your might. For out of it comes the issues of life. The minds of the average Nigerians we have left to play, the average young Nigerians or Nigerian, we have allowed to just play. And these are fallow lands that if we do not plant in them, weeds will grow. One thing I know about Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, based on antecedents, is that he's extremely passionate about the young people. He's extremely passionate about youth. If you take a roll call of the lives Asiwaju has touched, every one of them he found as a youth. He found as dirt in the ground. In the rubble. And he brought them out, polished them, and now they are shining like a million diamonds. So if there's anybody that has the best interest of the youths at heart, who doesn't believe in dividing, who doesn't see the presidency as an opportunity to just be called Mr. President, is Asiwaju. And he said one thing, said, I have prepared for this all of my life. That's not a joke.
I think that's quite instructive, and perhaps where we'll draw the curtain on this conversation. I wish we could continue because there's still a whole lot more to talk about. But I mean, I would love to have you one more time again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ken, for being on the show.
Thank you, Benga. It's a pleasure to be on Politics Alive.
Thank you so much. All right. It's been an interesting conversation with Kem Ashekun, a member of the All Progressives Congress, the Presidential Campaign Council. And we've talked about a whole lot of things, but let's not forget, as we draw the curtain on this edition of the program, that this country is our own, and we have to continue to play our part for its continuous growth. It is our own. If the country country grows, it is our own. If it does not grow, it is still our own. You have no other nation that you can call your own, like Nigeria. Therefore, especially this message is to the younger Nigerians who, are not informed. Let us take time to understand the electoral process, the democratic process. Let us take time to know what happens in the political parties and why political decisions are made at certain times. Then we'll be able to understand how democratic governments do work. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the program. I'll see you again next time. Till then, keep watching Allied Television. I am Olubenga George.